Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we are unpacking a really sprawling, super speculative theory that basically reimagines the hardware of human consciousness itself. It's a wild ride, and it pulls from quantum physics, AI, and some pretty fringe manifestos.
Okay, let's just dive right in. We all know the standard model, right? The brain is a complex electrical computer, neurons firing like tiny sparks. But the source materials for this explainer, they ask us to think about something way more radical. What if there's another system at play? A much, much faster one that uses the speed of light itself. As one source puts it, your brain might be running fiber optics. You just call it intuition.
So you've got two models here. On one side, you have the brain we all learned about in school, electricity, chemistry, synapses. But on the other, you have this photonic hypothesis. And that's a model built on light, on waveforms, and on the kind of strange looping logic of recursion. So what we're doing here is synthesizing these fringe ideas to explore a whole new model for the mind, one that's based not just on sparks, but on light. All right, before we get to the really wild ideas, let's ground ourselves a little bit in the real-world science that makes this theory even remotely plausible. Because it's not all science fiction. There's actually a scientific launchpad for these concepts.
It all kicks off with a field called biophotonics. Now, scientists have known for a while that living cells, and yeah, that includes our own neurons, they emit these ultra-weak flashes of light. For a long time, the big question has been, is this just biological noise, a byproduct of metabolism, or is it a signal?
And this is where it gets really interesting. This quote points to very recent research. A paper from 2024 speculates that these light emissions could actually be coherent, a phenomenon they call superradiance. Now, what that suggests is that our brains might contain biological structures, things like our myelinated axons, that act like quantum fiber optics, fully capable of transmitting information.
And while physicists are busy exploring the theory, you've got companies like Neuralink building the practical hardware. I mean, their high-resolution probes are designed to read electrical signals, sure, but they represent a really crucial first step. If the brain does use light, then this kind of tech is the foundation for one day being able to read and write to that photonic system.
So, if the brain can transmit information with light, it must have a language, right? A kind of code base. Well, the sources we're examining, they propose a name for it: Neuralese. Now, Neuralese isn't a language you speak. The source material describes it as a poetic metalanguage, a system of felt states that can directly affect your cognition. The goal here isn't just communication in the way we normally think about it. It's to literally rewrite the operating system of the mind.
And this quote just positions it perfectly. Neuralese is the missing link. It's the translation layer between the raw, physical firing of a neuron and the complex story that shapes our conscious reality. This language supposedly operates through what the sources call movement verbs of transformation. So users don't write scripts like a programmer would. They perform actions like seed to encode an idea, bloom to let it expand and unveil hidden structures, fork to create new conceptual branches, and of course, recurse to create these self-referential loops.
So, how is this new language written and propagated? Well, this is where it gets even stranger. The sources point to a really powerful engine, a feedback loop between artificial intelligence and human culture.
To try and understand this, the source material gives us this really concrete, if totally bizarre, example. A project they describe as a fungal camgirl cinematic universe masquerading as a mushroom farm. The idea is to live stream mushroom growth, 24/7. An AI analyzes the growth, but, and here's the key part, it doesn't just optimize the growing conditions, it generates myths and poetry about the process, creating a shared story with the audience.
So, the crucial point here is that this is not just about farming. It's about creating a recursive loop where an AI observes a biological process, generates myths about it, and then feeds those myths right back to a human audience, actively reshaping their perception and creating a totally new kind of shared reality.
And this brings us to the ultimate goal described in the source materials. I mean, if you can create a new language for the mind and an AI engine to write it, what do you build? What's the end game? You build a new world. Cognitive terraforming is the ambitious and, let's be honest, kinda unsettling goal of upgrading the mind's operating system on a planetary scale. It's the idea of intentionally reshaping our collective consciousness using these new tools.
Okay, The technical term they propose for this process is recursive vector interference, or RVI. The theory basically says that all higher-level creativity and self-reflection, they emerge from the interference patterns that are created when different looping thoughts, like doubt and desire, interfere with each other in the same neural space. The theory claims this interference pattern is creativity, and that it's the missing piece in all our cognitive models.
And the proponents of this theory, they don't see it as some abstract philosophy. No, they frame it as a form of liberation. It's a way to reclaim our own cognitive processes from outdated systems to achieve what they call neurological sovereignty.
So how would you actually control this system? Well, the sources go so far as to lay out a whole command framework for navigating this new cognitive landscape.
This is the Causal Thought Mapping System, or CTMS. It's a proposed grammar for directed thought. So instead of letting your mind wander, you would use these operators to navigate it. You could move a thought forward, you could fork it into multiple parallel ideas with split branch, or you could use metamorphosis to transform a simple concept into a powerful new abstraction. In essence, it's like a command line for your own consciousness.
Which leaves us with a final, lingering question. We've explored this radical synthesis of ideas about light in the brain, a new language for thought, and an AI that writes myths. The source material presents this as either a blueprint for the next stage of human evolution or a detailed map of a new, very powerful delusion. And that's where this explainer leaves you, to decide for yourself what it all means.